It's the vast and ominous comic vault. Today's featured book is Batman: The Long Halloween, which we are tackling, of course, on our Christmas show. Eric, I left my Christmas hat over there. It's way over there. Should I go get it?
Maybe. Use the force. Anyone can.
We'll talk about that a little bit later on the program. Anyway. Alright, so it's time for The Long Halloween, which hilariously we're doing on our Christmas show. Why? Because we're gonna do this at Halloween, and we didn't both get to it. I read it, but Eric wasn't able to get to it. And I think even the Halloween show, neither of us had gotten to it yet. Yeah. And then the next show I got to it. Well, the next show was Ninja Turtles.
Yeah.
And then after that, I got to it, but you didn't. Mm-hmm. And so now, whatever it was. Anyway, now we're doing this.
We're doing Long
Halloween. Now, because of the Batman theme for this show, this is going to make some sense. Well, I should say, Batman: The Long Halloween, in my opinion, is titled wrong. Yeah, come at me. That's what I think. It's about a bunch of holidays, or at least it takes place at a bunch of holidays. So the nice thing is there is a little Christmas in this. So there is that. But for the Batman theme of the show, I'm really glad we're tackling this on this show, because later on in the omnibus, and if you're just watching the video of this as its own separate thing, make sure to go back to the omnibus or watch D-Pad this week, because we're going to tackle the Batman Telltale game, and in a lot of ways, this is kind of a riff on this material, and it's going to be really interesting to compare and contrast and talk about these, not together, but on the same show. So. Anyway, so that's why we're finally tackling Batman: The Long Halloween, which is, I would argue, one of kind of the big 3 or 4 Batman books that people who don't know anything about Batman or have not read a lot of comics can point to, or at least could before Snyder.
Interestingly, I think Long Halloween and Hush are that.
You think so?
Yeah. No, Hush is almost always in people's favorites if they don't actually read comics.
Okay.
Or
even still?
Or it's their gateway. People love Hush.
Yeah.
I mean, part of it's that Jim Lee art, and part of this is the Tim Sale art.
But I don't know, I feel like it's Dark Knight, and sometimes it used to be sometimes year 1, but like Dark Knight Returns, and then Killing Joke, and then this.
No, I think that's totally
And I think that was the case before Hush came out.
But here's my question.
Yeah.
Well, but I don't know about that. I think Long Halloween has the reputation it has at this point because Nolan talked about it so much.
I don't agree with that.
It was the major inspiration.
I don't agree with that. Okay. I heard about it plenty before Dark Knight came out.
Okay, well, you're older than me, so...
Yeah.
Because I first hear about this when they make Batman Begins.
I think a lot more people found out about it after that, but anybody who was talking about comics, I feel like the big 3 still were kind of the same.
Okay.
Let me know in the comments if you agree with that. Especially folks that are more toward my age. Yeah, if you're in your 30s, what do you think about that statement? But that's what I recall anyway. But difficult to put yourself back in different times, right? Because we do live in a world now with not 1 but 2 iterations of Batman on screen since then. You know, and I mean that one and even another one now. So I mean it's been a while, and Batman's much more in people's purview, and you know more people know this stuff or have at least heard of this stuff.
And, I mean, I read this because Nolan talked about it. I think I get this probably the Christmas of Dark Knight. Like, right after Dark Knight, I think, is when I finally get this and read it. And I loved it. I thought it was amazing. I loved all the character designs. I thought it was brilliant. I've read it I actually used to read this, like, once a year. I'd keep coming back to this. But it's been a little while since I've read it. But I've always really liked it. I've always thought... Like, I didn't fully understand it, and, like, one day I would fully understand it, but, I've always thought this was just...
Do you mean thematically or plot-wise?
Plot-wise.
I mean, what's actually happening in the book?
Yeah, I always thought I was just missing things.
Yeah.
But it's always been one of my favorite Batman stories, I've always thought. And I always thought it cast a long shadow over Hush, which was also Jeff Loeb, and I thought was kind of like this done poorly.
Yeah. And they have a great deal of things in common, right? And I have reviewed Hush. Steve and I did that a long time ago. But one of the things that... And famously, I used to love that story.
Yeah.
And then I read it again and was like, wait a minute, this is nonsense. The big things it has in common the biggest thing it has in common, of course, is using the whole Rogues Gallery, taking place over a long period
and maybe
of time.
unnecessarily using the whole Rogues Gallery.
Yeah, and having a big mastermind that's kind of... Well, in Hush, it's
a murder mystery.
In Hush, it's a mastermind, right? And that's less of a crime drama than this is, because it's a little bit bigger.
That's more superhero.
It's got Superman. It's a little superhero. Yeah, you're right. But that has more of a mastermind manipulating all the villains. This isn't that so much. It's more just all the villains finding some way to get involved.
Most of them get hired by Falcone.
Yeah,
I think. Because most of them get.
Well, and a lot of them just kind of come in for sort of their own reasons, or it's convenient that they even show up at all.
Yeah.
I think a lot of the villains just being in this it's kind of convenient that they're here.
I know he hires Poison Ivy, Scarecrow, and Mad Hatter.
But those are the only three.
Those are the three I know that he hires.
You know, we kind of shove in Solomon Grundy. We kind of shove in Riddler.
Yeah.
Well, no, that's not fair. Riddler gets grabbed by Maroney or by I forget now. Who is it that grabs Riddler?
For April
in
Fool's
order
Day,
to...
it's Falcone, and he grabs him, and it's basically a recap issue.
Right, but he's grabbed to try to prove. You're right. That's probably why he's there.
Figure out who Holiday
to try to
is.
find out who he is, and then when he seems worthless, he gets thrown out back, and Holiday doesn't kill him because it's April Fool's Day. But I don't know why the Holiday Killer would kill Riddler anyway.
And also, it's a 22 gun that has, I think, like 4 shots, and he covers
all the way
around him into the wall.
But we're getting ahead of ourselves. Anyway, those are kind of the things that they have in common. And I agree with you. I will say, after reading this again and having some eyebrow-raising questions, and we'll get to all of that, I think at the end of the day, a lot of the mystery doesn't add up. But I still love this book for a lot of reasons. It's still better than Hush.
It is.
At the end of the day, it's still better than Hush.
Although I haven't reread Hush in a long time, but I would like to say it's still better than Hush.
You're not gonna make me do that again, are you?
Maybe.
Okay. Maybe at some point we'll do that again. Anyway. So where do you want to jump in with this? So 13 issues. I just asked you a question and started talking, but I wasn't sure that you knew where you wanted to go.
I didn't.
Okay. So 13 issues. Do you think it's longer than it needs to be?
It's way longer than it needs to be.
It's a little padded out,
I think this could be a 6-issue miniseries that does the year 1 thing where it jumps through time.
Is it a concept over execution problem? And I don't mean the entire book necessarily.
It's a decompression problem. Most of these pages have 1, 2, it's got like 3, 4 panels, and that's just how Jeff Loeb writes. He writes big and splashy.
Yeah.
I think you can just take this book and just add some panels to some pages and a lot.
But what I mean by that is, doesn't it kind of hold to this format, and it's got to be 350 pages, because the idea, don't you feel like
you're going to go through the year with?
Don't you feel like these guys sat down and they said yeah, like every month is going to be a month of the year, and we got to find a way to fill that many pages.
Yeah, no, that's exactly what happened. They sat down and said, how do we make a story that will go through the year?
It also would have helped if they were all normal page count. I think that first issue is longer than 22 pages,
I think
is it not?
I think it's like 40.
I didn't count. I think it's really long.
Yeah. Because when I sat down to read this, I was telling you, I was like, issue 1's taken a while. I think it's oversized.
It's immediately a captivating idea and a really tough one to pull off, because you have to make Batman not look like an idiot. I've said this before. And this is why Dark Victory is nonsense. You have to make Batman not look like an idiot while it takes him an entire year to solve a crime. And in this, he kind of doesn't.
He doesn't solve it, and the year thing gets so weird because when you think about the time in between issues, because it's 1 a month, it gets absurd. So he's looking for the Riddler for 3 months, and then he's like, oh, he's in that dive bar. The one that he usually goes to, he's there.
And that's why maybe it should have been a calendar thing before it was a holiday thing, because then you could go squarely January, February, March. That's not what it does, because some holidays are closer together and some holidays are farther apart.
Yeah.
Right, or does it find a way to sandwich it month to month?
I think it is month to month. Okay. I think they pick one holiday each month.
Okay.
Some of them would be, well, except for December, because that's got New Year's and... but my guess would be that was the January issue, was the New Year's one.
Yeah, probably so.
It's just, when you think about the timeline of this book, it gets really ridiculous. We have Gordon going to Bruce's house, looking for him. And then...
No, it's his father's house, which he makes sure and repeats every issue.
And then, it's like an issue or two later, he goes to Bruce's again, and Alfred's like, I'm sorry, sir, he's still not here. I'm like, 2 months? The police have been coming to your house for 2 months and they haven't done anything?
That's really funny. Yeah, it has that kind of TV problem, and we've seen this in movies lately too, where it tries to have its cake and eat it too, where it tells you that so much time has passed, but then it has to try to dupe you into, in particular scenes, thinking that a different amount of time has passed. The Gotham TV show also has this problem.
Yes. Gotham has no understanding of time. I don't think the format works. I think when you think about it in any kind of...
It's a great novelty.
Yeah.
And I think that's the whole thing with this book is, I think it rides pretty hard on, but not entirely, on novelty and on presentation.
It's a real style over substance kind of piece.
Yeah. But then there also is plenty of substance in sections, in characters and ideas.
And some of them, unfortunately, are ideas before they're characters. Harvey Dent is not a character in this book. So, near the end, we catch Alberto Falcone. He doesn't even... It's not like Batman figures out and he catches him. He just shows up and says he's the holiday killer.
Yeah.
Alberto Falcone is caught and takes credit for all of the holiday killings. And that seems to be...
murdering mostly people having to do with Falcone.
Yeah.
Falcone. That's a thing now, right?
Yeah.
It's really hard not to go between the two pronunciations, because
like Raish and Raz.
Yeah.
So, that's the reveal, and that he faked his death on New Year's. Then, in the last couple of pages...
And he's the first murder. That's what starts all of this.
No,
I'm sorry, he's not. He's not, excuse me.
Yeah.
He fakes it after...
He fakes on New Year's.
After a couple murders, yeah.
Then, on the last couple of pages, we go to Harvey Dent's house, where his wife is, and she reveals that she started the holiday killer thing. And then on New Year's, when the death was fake, Harvey came home and it was snowing, but he had his hat on and his hair was wet, and she knew that he had taken up the mantle of holiday and was killing people, and so she stopped killing people. So let's bear in mind that Gilda is the holiday killer at least through Christmas.
She's part of it, and we've had... And it should be noted that, especially through Julian Day, Calendar Man, we've had a lot of hints throughout it that there are two holiday killers.
And I would have to double check.
He keeps saying things like she is something with him, or I forget what exactly the wording is. But
well, he it's like he switches the
pronouns,
but within the same sentence about the same person. Like he doesn't suggest that it's two people. He just goes back and forth in a couple of places.
I always thought that's what it was supposed to be, though, especially rereading it. Like that he was almost saying like it's two people, but they're working in tandem, almost like they're the same person.
But so when we go all the way back to the beginning and we get to the first killing that apparently Gilda did.
Yeah.
She goes into a major mob person's... She gets into a major mob person's house and kills them in the bathtub. I'm just going to start with how.
Yeah.
How did this woman get, like, past security and guard... Like, it's not an easy thing to do.
That's a good question.
And I have that with almost all of her kills.
Yeah.
It makes more sense if it's Alberto. Because it's... I can buy that he would be able to get into these places.
Yeah, right. Here's the thing. If Alberto did any of it, I at least understand his motivations to some degree.
Yes.
And I get hers too. I actually think her motivation is very interesting. I like the idea, and that's the thing, is I like ideas in this book before I like how they're executed. So, she is a foil for Batman. It's really interesting, right? Because this is not the Batman who thinks the kind of more I guess my Batman, the traditional like I know I'll never actually be able to solve all the crime in Gotham, but I've got to set the example so that like we can change hearts and minds. This is not that Batman. This is in a lot of ways the Nolan Batman, who thinks that, not straight up, but you see why he latched onto this book, and why so much of that is in Dark Knight, where he thinks that eventually because he has a monologue about it at the end, that eventually he'll be able to do what he set out to do, which was to stop the crime that created his parents' killing. She wants that too, so that she actually can have a life and spend time with her husband.
Mm-hmm.
And she wants it for similar reasons that Bruce does. If you can use her, and this might sound ludicrous, but I don't think it is, and I think this is a thing that a lot of people have and can relate to. She has lost her husband, but he's still there, which can sometimes almost be worse than losing your loved one and never seeing them again. Like, at least maybe when they died, you were on good terms with them or whatever. But this is almost worse. It's like it's this twisted thing of you're always there, but you're never there, and it would be easier if you were never there at all. So if only we had no crime. And so that's why she's doing this, and that makes her a fool for Batman.
Mm-hmm.
I like that idea a lot.
Mm-hmm.
But if she is the holiday killer at all, for any duration, because what she says is, like you said, let me just break this down again, because it's complicated and confusing, and I don't know if it's meant to be ambiguous or not. You think it's ambiguous? I think he's coming out and I think Loeb is coming out and telling you what has actually happened. And I don't think it makes sense if that is what has actually happened. I also think it's confusing because she can't know for sure, so I then, at least with that part, don't know if he's saying that...
I don't know whether Harvey's involved in the holiday killer thing at all. That's my big thing.
If it's let's say it's exactly what she says it is.
Okay.
Let's just give her the benefit of the doubt and say she has enough. Let's say she has enough evidence that it can't be anything but what she says, and also forgetting the fact that Batman thinks he has enough evidence and he's completely wrong in thinking that Harvey Dent did all of it. When you get to the end of this, you're just going to have had to have read this book to know what we're talking about right now. When you get to because this is a difficult thing to summarize and break down because of this crazy ending. So, which is treated like an epilogue and like it reveals everything. Let's say everything she says is true, and she started the thing, and then Harvey Dent had the same idea he did, or she did. Where does Alberto fit in? Why did he fake his own death? Why is he involved?
And why is there no other killing on that date? That leaves a whole month without a holiday killing. And why would, and what did Harvey do that day if his hair was wet and that was the tell that he'd gone off and done something? That murder is a fake. It's not a real murder.
Well, you have to remember that he pretended he was Alberto.
Yes, he did.
So were they, in cahoots together or something?
I don't know. No, I have no idea.
I mean, at that point, I'm not thinking that, but then when he's involved somehow maybe in the murders, I'm wondering if there was anybody talking to anybody. I'm very confused about the way she fits in.
Well, and there's problems with,
But thematically to the rest of the story and the question of, do you ever have to do bad things for the right reasons? Is it necessary? The classic, should Batman just kill the Joker question, that's handled here really well, and in some of the best ways I've seen it. I want it to be her. Mm-hmm. I want her to have at least started it, but I want Harvey Dent to not be part of it at all.
Well, and that's what I think it is. But the problem is...
Because that doesn't make as much sense.
I think it does.
No, I'm just saying, it wouldn't...
If Harvey's involved.
Wouldn't be very sympathetic, and it would be ridiculous if he was a murderer before he was Two-Face.
Yeah.
I don't want it to be that.
She does it through Christmas, and then New Year's when Alberto fakes his death, she thinks Harvey did it. The problem with that train of thought is, why does Alberto fake his death? Why does Alberto think, if he's going to now become the holiday killer, why does he think the holiday killer would stop killing and there wouldn't just be two holiday killers, right? How does he know that that's the time when the holiday killer's going to stop and he can take over?
And if it was what she thought it was, you'd have the same question with Harvey Dent. Mm-hmm. What would Harvey Dent think the holiday killer was doing?
Yeah, no one knows that she stopped doing it.
Yeah.
So I don't understand.
It doesn't add up. And also, I think Loebe's potentially cheating in a particular scene. I talked to you about this yesterday, where she's in the basement and she's found evidence. She found some evidence. And Harvey Dent comes down and she's like, you have this 22, it looks just like the one the holiday killer's been using. They're all the ones, because he always leaves it at the line.
Yeah.
He or she. He and she. And
he
says, I kept this evidence. And she's like, but you brought evidence home? I always do that. And then he leaves. And she's really upset and freaked out. And every time you've seen her up until this point, and through most of the rest of the book, she's clueless and confused and worried about him. And it might all be an act, I guess, except in that particular scene, when he walks off, she continues the act and is talking to herself, and I do not buy it. If she's just that good of an actress and keeping it up like that for him, and I'm trying to remember if at that point this would have to be the point where Harvey Dent has already, in her mind, started becoming the holiday killer.
No, it would definitely have to be that point because it's later in the book.
Okay, but I don't buy that she's keeping up the act like that to the point where she doesn't even think he's listening and she's still acting that way. It makes it feel like her being the holiday killer at the end is a retroactive choice. I don't think the book knows she did it until the end.
I don't think the book knows who did it until the end.
And that's problematic. Now, I'm not saying you can't write mysteries that way, but it must all add up. There must be clues. I mean, like, you want to take advantage of it when it works, right? You don't want to miss that opportunity where you're like, I didn't know who it was, or I thought I did, but then I changed it. I've always said the way I write fiction, and I don't want to compare myself too much to other people, obviously, but but there are a lot of people that do this. I like to write toward an ending, but I'll let that ending change if it makes sense. I don't think he's writing toward an ending here.
Well, but here's the problem.
But can you write a mystery like that, where like you have no idea
yes, you
whatsoever?
Can, but not in the comic book.
I think you can too. Why not? Oh, because
you can't revise.
You can't revise it.
You can do that when you're writing a novel, and then you go back and you revise. It's coming out month to month. You can't do that.
But let me suggest
you can't make it all add up.
And again, I'm
didn't add up in the first
I'm
place.
breaking one of my own cardinal rules when I say this, but this is the best example at the moment that I can come up with. So I'll say this because there aren't a whole lot of other things. Well, I mean, I guess TV shows are this way too.
Yeah.
Where you can't revise.
Yeah.
But like sometimes you'll get lucky and it works. Where you didn't have an idea, but then you say it all came up to this point, and if you or it was all leading to this, and if you go back and everything adds up, you almost want to put other eyes on it to make sure. But if the continuity holds, you don't want to miss that opportunity. I did that with Spawn Year. I had no idea it was all happening inside my own head, and then that ended up actually lining up and working.
Right.
So we did it that way. So yeah, sometimes even when you can't revise, it works. But I don't think this does.
No, I don't think so either. Having read other like Loeb works, I don't know if he's ever written a good mystery outside of maybe the Red Hulk. Like he doesn't.
Is it too much a mystery? Is that part of the problem?
It's too much a mystery.
Yeah. Because the mystery stuff is not really what I'm latching on to. I'm not page turning like I can't wait to find out who the holiday killer is, and I feel like it's a little bit too gimmicky, and I'm being kind of teased and jerked around a little bit too much with all of that. I'm just gonna keep doing this. I'm much more interested in the kind of philosophical and psychological questions about Batman and justice and
sometimes I think Loeb is, because a lot of these issues, it'll be like a whole story and then somebody got killed. And like we're not even like the Joker issue is the Poison Ivy issue, like we're barely about the holiday killer story at all in those issues. It's just somewhere in those 22 pages someone got killed. But like that's not what the issue is about.
Yeah, I think one of the reasons people love this story is because it reads like a big, definitive, comprehensive Batman thing.
Which is also why people like Hush.
Yeah, where it's got most of the rogues. It takes
and
place
really
over
cool
a long
designs
period
for
of time.
everyone.
It's a series rather than just a short story. It takes its time. And as I've said before, I always have to be reminded that this was ever in continuity, because it reads like an alternate continuity thing to me. And part of it's because of the style. But I feel like it's hard not to get wrapped up in this as a world, because I do think it has a wonderful sense of atmosphere. And it is what, by and large, I want Batman to feel like. I love that hard-boiled crime drama aspect of it, but I don't need the whole thing to be a whodunit.
It's also,
and if that's what it's all about, it just needs to all come together at the end. Like, I like the fact that it's a whodunit and it's also a character story, at least to some degree. Because, like I said, when I get to the end of this, I do think there's a lot of stuff to sink my teeth into thematically.
But some of that doesn't work. Like the whole thing with his father.
No, let's talk about that.
And him going to prison.
Let's talk about that.
Okay.
Yeah, because I want to love that. So what works about it? So the idea is Bruce Wayne's dad, who is a doctor, went and saved Falcone's life one time.
Well, not even went. They came to his house.
Oh, that's right.
That's
right. His father's house. Yeah.
And he just because he's a doctor, because you take that code. Where you take
the oath.
Yeah, you take the oath.
Do no harm.
Everybody stay black as night. That one.
Yeah.
And so he had to help him.
That's why my primary care physician is wearing this weird green ring. That makes perfect sense now. So he just does his duty, and he's offered a bribe or something. I don't remember what exactly it is, and he won't take it. He won't get in cahoots with them. But now he's gotten his name sullied, and he's got blood on his hands because he helped out a bad person that will then go hurt more people, and that's supposed to be a mirror for Batman, or a parallel for Batman, where it's like Bruce is having to deal with this on a bigger scale of if I help criminals, they're just going to hurt more people, even if it seems like the right thing to do at the time. Mm-hmm. What I like about it is that his dad had to deal with exactly the same issue that you have when you're Batman, which is, well, if I just let the Joker die. Mm-hmm. And I like that. I like that he's trying to be his dad, who's a good person, and he's fighting that. Really, what boils down to the Nolan Batman versus the more traditional Batman, which is it about ever having a life after it, or is it about setting the example forever? Mm. There is a personal component to this as well, and I think that's really interesting. Mm. Because his father is just a guy trying to do the right thing with his career. Mm. And it's not about the larger issue. It is about the trees before it's about the forest.
Yeah, it's about there is a person dying and I'm going to save them.
Yeah, and Batman is struggling with, well, is that what I'm about, or am I about the bigger picture? Mm-hmm. And so I love that.
Yeah, no, that's a great idea. The problem is Harvey and Gordon take this one incident as, indicative of the whole, oh, the Waynes and the Falcones are like this, right? Like they're all intermixed. And then they go and they arrest Bruce Wayne with no evidence for nothing. They put him on trial.
Twice. I do not understand that.
They put him on trial, and the attorney...
Are they actually putting Bruce Wayne on trial?
Bruce Wayne is on trial.
That is so typical nonsensical TV stuff, right? It's like, this is not how the world works.
What is he even on trial for?
I realize we're in a heightened reality, but you also need internal logic, because this thinks it's a really deep, serious, realistic within this context crime drama. Mm. That's all stupid. That is nonsense. And unless I'm missing something.
The attorney says, all right, so I've explained
to you... guilty by association. They wouldn't have anything to hold him on.
Yeah, no, they couldn't even throw him in the drunk tank. They're like, all right, I've explained to you that these two's fathers were connected. Now I'm going to prove beyond a shadow of a doubt that these two are connected. And his evidence for these two being connected is their fathers were connected.
Yeah, there's nothing
once on one night.
Yeah. And
I don't understand what they're doing to Bruce Wayne, what they're accusing him of.
Really illegally, unless it's just... he's not supposed to go to someone's house and do that.
Yeah, unless he's being put on trial for whatever happens when Poison Ivy's in control of him, but I'm not sure.
I think that is part of it.
Maybe, I don't know.
But I still don't know. I just feel like, okay, I think that is what that is. Mm. If you know this book also, and you have a different read on this, you leave us a comment, because we might be missing something there. I do think that's probably what that is, Eric. I forgot about that part. But I feel like his father having anything to do with Falcone, or having such little to do with Falcone, that is less than circumstantial.
Yeah.
There's nothing there.
I also don't know if anything he did under the influence of Poison Ivy was illegal, and I wouldn't think it would be in court the way they've got it in court.
Only if they know for sure, only if they can actually pin anything on Falcone now, and it's not like they're taking him to jail. Mm-hmm. Because the whole point is he's untouchable.
Well, and Bruce Wayne was such a strong proponent of
because he's Gotham's untouchable crime lord, or whatever it was.
Yeah, the untouchable crime lord of Gotham.
And you know what the other one is? The other one, Maroni, the main rival of Falcone. I forgot how exactly that's worded. Every issue, we should talk about this, because I know that was driving you insane. Every issue recaps these people. Whenever you see them again,
the exact same words,
with the exact same wording, and I get that it's a monthly comic, and I don't mind that it's got some. I'm just gonna keep doing this now. I don't mind that it has some kind of a narration box next to them that reminds you who they are, but maybe change up the wording a little bit. That got really redundant and irritating.
It also leads to,
and we don't think about this, like a series that came out monthly. This is always advertised and thought of as a graphic novel.
Yeah. But it recaps so much. It's such a like, and that's fine. Like, I get that it came out monthly, but like nobody ever talks about it as like, yeah, you have to wait to the fact that we introduce every character every issue. But the I want to talk about the Untouchable Crime Lord of Gotham thing for a second, because one of the biggest complaints about this book, the accusations that get thrown, is that he's stealing from other places. So all this crime lord stuff is from The Godfather. Some of them scene for scene, and then there's a lot of Silence Lambs. He keeps calling him the Untouchable Crime Lord of Gotham, so he can just do the scene from The Untouchables where someone writes touchable. Oh man, like.
Now, here's the thing: if he ripped that off from someplace, and because as we've talked about a lot, there's ripping things off, and then there's building on things and being inspired by
absolutely.
Things. Those are different.
Absolutely.
You and I just watched. I haven't watched all of it. You and I just watched SF Dupree's really good. We should plug this because
absolutely.
I wanted to talk about that at some point. Well, I'll mention it really fast.
Yeah.
This has nothing to do with Batman, but SF Dupree did a really good comprehensive history of specifically George Lucas's creating the Star Wars trilogy and prequel trilogy, and at one point he's talking about the difference between ripping people off and building on what came before, and that there's a huge distinction to that with Star Wars, where you can see a lot of influences, but he's marrying things and sandwiching things.
He is doing something new,
brand new. Yeah.
Yes.
And so I've not seen that. I wouldn't have picked up on that. So if he's doing that, that's problematic with the whole touchable and touchable.
And I'm not familiar enough with The Godfather to really come down on that one. I just know that's what people say.
Yeah. However, I will say that it isn't a problem because Untouchable Crime Lord of Gotham is in all of the narration boxes, because it's also in dialogue. They do talk about it. I wish we'd get that out of the narration boxes, but it's not like there's no build up to that being written on a wall, because Batman has a line, or maybe this also was in his internal monologue. I can't remember, but they do talk about him as being touchable or as being untouchable. And there's a line where Batman has somewhere where he's like, "This reminds us that we're all that we're all touchable."
Yeah. No, that's, I guess it's not written on the wall. That's where it gets to. It's the touchable thing. But it's just,
okay. I didn't have a problem with that, but I didn't know he pulled it from somewhere.
Well, yeah. Well, in the Untouchables, they're the
okay, but
if
it's not written on a wall.
No, you're right. I mean, it's not exactly the same.
I don't know that's horrible.
I feel like it's more...
I'm gonna take up for that one.
Okay, that's fine.
I'm gonna take up for that
that's
one.
That's fine.
But I don't know the material, so...
Yeah, no, I mean, it's not even that it's exactly the same. It's just like, yep, I also saw The Untouchables. I get that you've also seen... And The Untouchables had come out, like, 5 years prior at that point. Like, maybe a little bit longer. But
we should mention with the trial thing... We're about half an hour in, so we should probably wrap this up in maybe 5 minutes or so.
Yeah.
We should mention with the whole trial thing that the reason for all of that is to create this drama where Bruce Wayne and Harvey Dent are at loggerheads, where each of them is after the other one as the holiday killer. And I think it's a little too outliney, forcing it. Like, wouldn't it be neat if it was that way, as opposed to coming out of these characters and what their motivations would be and what they would be thinking, right? It makes sense that Bruce is after Harvey because from almost page 1, Harvey Dent is on the table as maybe being the holiday killer. Like, it kind of makes so much of a big deal out of he's the holiday killer that he can't be.
Well, and it's unfortunate because...
But we force it the other way.
People think of it as a tragedy. Harvey Dent is not a likable character in this story. So when he becomes Two-Face, I don't feel bad, because... Just from a narrative perspective...
They make you too suspicious of him.
Well, they make you too suspicious, but he's also at odds with your point of view character of Batman. He's always going against Bruce Wayne, and that immediately makes you not sympathize with him.
Yeah, sure.
And for no reason. Just that his dad helped...
Almost to the point where... Yeah, and I mean, like, he is... Again, it is tragic in the sense that even if he were the holiday killer, he's doing the wrong thing for the right reasons. I mean, I don't want to say that he's fully unsympathetic, except that... From Batman's perspective, he's not.
But
and
he's
that makes it almost like he's Two-Face before he's Two-Face.
He's not like a likable guy. Like, it's not like this great guy who's trying to put... It's not like Dark Knight.
No, Dark Knight really improves on that.
Yeah, Dark Knight fixes this and does the story that
Bruce
I think
keeps having
to
remind me that they're friends. And that's problematic.
Yeah.
Because they don't feel like friends.
No, they don't. Not at all.
And I love things like the trio that you had in Dark Knight of Gordon and Batman and Harvey all working together. I love that shot on the roof. We've not talked enough about art. We need to spend a couple minutes on that.
Yeah, it's the kind of definitive Tim Sale piece.
It is, absolutely. But you're on the roof, and you've got that great from the ground like undershot of the three of them, and then they bring that back again at the end where he's Two-Face. I love that stuff. But I want these three to feel like more of a team than they are. And
like they do in Dark Knight.
We put them against each other way too quickly.
So much stuff that doesn't work in this that they picked up on for Dark Knight is done better in Dark Knight. Like, it's done so much better.
Yeah, and Dark Knight even makes them, Harvey and Bruce, initially kind of against each other, and you see them become friends, and you buy it. And that's some of the best. I mean, I don't love everything about the love triangle, but at least the beginning of it, that's handled really, really well.
Yeah. I feel like there was something else that we said we were going to talk about.
Before art.
Or maybe it was art.
We do want to talk about art.
Okay, just real quick before we get to art, I want to talk about one more thing, which is Catwoman.
We can spend just a few more minutes on it. I mean, there's so much in this book, and we could do an hour on it, but
Catwoman makes no sense in this book unless you read Dark Victory, because she's just hanging out, and it's like, ooh, why am I hanging out? I could be hanging out for any reason. And then you find out that she's like the illegitimate child of Falcone or whatever, but as a piece, and they didn't intend to do Dark Victory when they made this. As a piece...
So that's retroactively an explanation.
Yeah. There's no... Which is already trying to retroactively be an explanation for why she was there in year one.
Now, as you're reading this, are you curious enough about that you have to have an answer to it? When you have that scene toward the end where she's like, well, maybe I'm just here because you're here, Batman, and I want to follow you around, like...
If it was the one plot thread that didn't get resolved, fine.
Yeah.
The problem is, all of the plot threads kind of end up being like this, where I'm like, I don't even know what was happening.
And it's all hinging on payoff. Which is a thing we've been running into a lot lately.
Yeah. I thought I liked
Not that this is new or anything.
I thought I liked Jeff Loeb's...
unsettling trend.
Batman and Catwoman. Like, I always had this memory of, like, I really like how they've written. I think it's only in Hush that I really like how he writes Batman and Catwoman. I didn't see it as much.
I actually had some dialogue issues with this book. Not all over, but there are a few places where I feel like it's the wrong kind of melodrama.
Mm-hmm.
Like this is a heightened language kind of book. There is some comic book melodrama that makes sense and is consistent. But there are just places where I feel like there's some pretty generic kind of melodramatic writing.
Yeah, I can totally see that.
That doesn't entirely fit with the rest of the piece, in my opinion. That, like, where, sometimes it's noir and sometimes it's film serial. That's...
Yeah, no, that's totally fair. Okay, one more thing before we get to the art is this thing that Jeff Loeb does that's awful.
And I know people love this book. I think it's problematic.
This is the worst reading I've had.
At the end of the day, I think story-wise there's a lot of stuff that doesn't work.
Because I think it finally clicked for me. I was like, oh... It's not that I don't understand; it's that it doesn't make sense.
Can you be seminal and not story-wise at least, totally work? I think so. Like
89, right?
Yes, this is important.
Yeah, absolutely.
This informs so much stuff.
I would never tell people not to read.
Would you make the? And I didn't mean to interrupt you where you're going, but would you agree with me if I were to say that it is possible that? It is possible. I don't know that part of the reason we keep coming back to this material, especially in other media, is because people think they can improve on it.
That may be so. I'm not sure.
I don't know.
Maybe. Because it doesn't work. And, like, at the end of the day, like, if we were doing a sign flip, I would go with not feeling it for this time. But it's not like an awful... It's not like an awful book. And I kind of want to read Hush again and see what my read of Hush is, because I remembered thinking this was head and shoulders above Hush, and now I'm like, I think it's better than Hush.
Yeah.
If just a bit, it's not as good as I thought it was. That's my big crushing realization. But the one thing I want to talk about before we got to art was Jeff Loeb does this bold thing where he has characters just repeat things as dialogue. So Scarecrow just says nursery rhymes. Mad Hatter only speaks in Alice in Wonderland quotes. Joker's dialogue for his first issue is almost entirely just Grinch quotes.
That I liked, though.
I think it's fine to do that once with one character.
Sure.
We have 3 of them here.
That's fair. I didn't think of that.
And some of them, it doesn't even follow as dialogue. We're like, when Mad Hatter and Scarecrow are arguing, and he wants tea and he wants cake, but all he's saying is patty cake.
I didn't understand that. And then
the only reason I know that they're arguing is because Falcone comes in and says, "Stop arguing over whether you're having tea or cake."
Yeah, and I was like, wait, that's the argument they're having? Okay.
Yeah, it makes Scarecrow seem like not a human being.
That was very strange.
But he does it with 3 characters. I think you can get away with doing that with 1 character.
Yeah, and it should be Joker, because that idea is pretty cool. I also like the idea of the Joker as the Grinch, because he's got to ruin everybody else's fun, because he's the only one who should be allowed to have fun. I like that idea.
Yeah.
The Joker in this, his whole motivation is just, as far as I can tell, that the Holiday Killer is getting too much press, and he doesn't want people to look at them over him. 2 problems with that. I mean, I don't mind that idea, but if that's the case, Joker should have some kind of giant crime spree or something he's trying to accomplish that is being overshadowed by this, because he's not doing anything.
Or the reverse, where instead of just trying to kill the Holiday Killer, he's like, "I'll show you what a real crime spree looks like," and then he goes on and does
I can do this better than you.
Yeah.
You know? Because usually, and I don't mean that the Joker has to necessarily be consistent, because he's obviously about inconsistency much of the time, and there's a lot of different variations of the Joker, but much of the time, the Joker only goes after other killers when they're kind of inching in on his territory or doing something too much like him. You know what I mean? You're not a comedian. I'm the comedian. You can't have that. So that's part of the problem with him trying to do that. And also, he hasn't been doing it very long.
Yeah. He's a relatively newer villain.
Why doesn't the Joker go after every serial killer?
Which is a problem with this book, is it both wants to play as a sequel to Year One, but also wants to, like, it is simultaneously Batman like Year 2 and Year 5. It wants to live in a Batman universe that's completely constructed and has all the villains, but also wants to pick up on a couple of plot threads from Year 1, like the Catwoman Falcone thing, and Falcone in general, because obviously he doesn't exist in any other Batman comics after Year 1.
I'm gonna...
Oh, and Solomon Grundy's here for no reason. Oh, and he also only speaks in Solomon Grundy.
Yes, but he's Solomon Grundy. That's normal. There's something I want to check on that I meant to look at before the show that I've got to talk to you about, because you and I had a disagreement. But what do you like and not like about the art? Because I know we were talking about this yesterday, and you kind of had some art issues, so would you take the floor for a little bit while I'm looking for this?
So, I've always really liked Tim Sale's art, and I've always considered this to kind of be, like, artistically like a masterpiece. But going back to it, I found that it's not all over the place, but there's enough times that it jumps out to me where I think he makes artistic choices that go too far. It's a very stylized, it's a very stylized book, but sometimes it looks like it's that, you have to know the rules before you can break them.
Yeah.
And I think this book is all about breaking the rules because he knows what they are. Anatomy doesn't exactly make sense, and I don't have a problem with that, but sometimes it looks bad. Like, sometimes it looks like Batman's arm is, like, this long, and he's, like, doing this, and, like, there's a lot of, not a lot, there are enough that I notice them, like, panels where I'm like, that looks bad. Like, think about, like, if you actually look at what's happening in the picture, that looks really bad and kind of, like, physically impossible. Which is fine to a certain extent stylistically, but it went too far in places for me. Like, it's still a beautiful book, but, it made me wonder if Sale wasn't as good as I thought he was, and, like, he just has I'm wondering if Sale maybe isn't the masterful artist I thought he was, but his style is so unique that we all think he is. Like, I'm not sure he.
I don't want to go that far.
Okay.
I mean, nothing looks like this. I feel like he's. I feel like he's got the perfect style for this kind of noirish thing.
Yeah. No, I like his art, but
and I like his. Here's the thing. A lot of the time when you have faces this exaggerated, it's so off-putting, I have a hard time looking at it. I don't have that problem with Sale.
No, not at all. And they're all mostly distinct.
And I also think some of what makes the art really pop in this book and stays with you, and this is true of all of his work, is the coloring.
Which is interesting because they've printed this in black and white, and I want to know what that looks like in black and white.
Yeah, I wasn't sure about that. I think this art would look really good in black and white.
I think so too.
It's just, it sticks with me because of the coloring. He's also one of the few artists that can get away with not putting anything in the background. I don't care.
Yeah, yeah.
That's kind of impressive. I mean, he does that a lot. It's some of it's, you know, minimalism. Also, I like that he has a spectrum of exaggeration. You know, like when you're on the ground, it's a little bit more realistic in comparison, but then when you get to the weirder stuff, you got the Joker with a face that goes like, with like a mouth that goes like all the way around his head. He's got the huge teeth and stuff.
Some people hate that stuff. Some people think that's too far. I like his Joker.
I've always liked his Joker for some reason.
And I like most of his designs.
And I have that issue sometimes with people drawing the Joker where it's really skewed. And anyway, we've gone on longer than I wanted to, but let me make another point real quick, if I can. You know how I told you that I feel like this book, and it's weird because it's early Batman, like you said, it's kind of like year 2. It's early Batman, but to your point yesterday when we were talking about this, nearly the whole Rogues Gallery is here, and he's familiar with all of them. So I don't know how much stuff has happened between year 1 and this, but that's crazy. And even if this was out of continuity, it still feels like there's just he's been through too much, and he knows too many people. I made the case to you that I thought, and I said this like it was just fact because I thought that's what I read, and you were like, wait a minute, where is that? Where this is Batman's first meeting with the Joker. Here's why I still think that's true. You have this. I just don't think this is what Batman would say if he'd met the Joker before. It's really weird. He finds Maroni. This is at the beginning of the Christmas issue. He finds Maroni, and he says, what went on here tonight? And Maroni says, some guy calls himself the Joker, came looking for Holiday, and Batman says, why, what's his connection to Holiday? And then he says, how should I know? He's a lunatic like you, the whole town is full of lunatics. It just doesn't feel like he's familiar with the Joker in that scene.
That's fair.
I might be wrong, but it doesn't feel like he's familiar with the Joker.
I want to say in that same issue somewhere they talk about like he's once again escaped from Arkham.
Why does that mean that Batman put him there?
Because he's been running around for at least a year or two at this point. Like,
but we don't know how long.
And all of the other villains exist, and he knows all of them and their psychology.
I know, but I don't know that that's necessarily evidence. I don't know if what I'm saying is evidence, but it's weird that he reacts that way. You'd think Batman would have more of a reaction, oh crap, that we're dealing with the Joker. And also, some guy calling himself the Joker, if he's escaped from Arkham, that's also not what Maroni would say.
That's not what
Maroni would say. It's the Joker.
And Joker's interactions with Batman are very personal and like, I know you and that kind of thing. When they're in the plane
that wasn't the sense I got from
it.
It was more that Joker is just like really interested in Batman.
Okay. But I've never read it that way because I've always been under the impression that it's not that
I would love to know other people's feelings on this because at the very least, as we're arguing about it, I think it's ambiguous. I like it's kind of hard to tell at least what kind of history they've had. At the very least, we have to agree on that.
And you could say that about all of the villains.
Yeah.
Has he faced all of them once, or like have they done a couple of crimes? Like I don't know what's happening with the continuity of this book. Because it wants to be a sequel to Year One, but too much has happened in between for I think that to really work.
So, this is... I guess this is the worst read I had of this, too, although I kept picking up also on nuances and things that I really liked about it, too, so maybe not, but I think it's incredibly problematic story-wise and is foundational material for the psychology of Batman.
Yeah. It's worth reading. I just don't think it really holds together.
I'm glad we finally talked about it.
Yeah, me too.
It's been far too long.
Yeah.
So that is our featured book for today. I'm going to go now on to what I'm forevermore going to refer to as our in brief books. And I've got so these will be a little mini reviews or just mentions of some other things that we've read recently and that we either recommend or want to tell you to steer way clear of. Nothing like that today, though. Nothing to steer clear of today.
No,
I wouldn't say. So. Eric, why don't we go ahead and talk about Klaus, and then I'll talk about two more Batman things very briefly.
Okay.
So, every year now, Grant Morrison is putting out a book of what has very quickly become one of now my favorite characters in comics. Morrison's very Viking interpretation of Santa Claus as a superhero. It's just such a wonderful idea. I've always thought Santa Claus should be a superhero. I love that he finally has created this fantasy mythology, almost Norse mythology thing out of Santa Claus in Klaus, and we've now had 2 one-shots after the original, I think, masterpiece of a miniseries came out that is all set in, medieval times, and now is it that far back?
I don't know if it's medieval.
Right,
it might be a little bit closer than that, but yeah. I'm not sure.
Yeah, maybe Renaissance before it's Middle Ages.
Yeah.
But anyway, and then now each year he's giving us one-shots that are set in different periods, and we have a Klaus that is ongoing, immortal, and is essentially Santa Claus. Mm-hmm. And last year we had that first one, which I didn't care for very much at all. And thought it was a little bit preachy in its environmental message. This one I like better, but I think is kind of problematic just in how we're presenting the mythology of this universe. So this is called Klaus and the Crisis in XMasville. I love XMasville as a concept. We've got a big group of scary henchmen Santa Clauses, and I always love evil henchmen Santa Clauses. That's always fantastic. And this was pitched as kind of the Coca-Cola Wars, which
it's
isn't
not.
Really. Yeah.
There were Coca-Cola Wars, but we just talk about them here. We don't get to actually... It's not actually about that.
Mm-hmm.
I think in like 15 years, Klaus is going to be amazing. Right now, Grant Morrison has an insanely thorough, well-developed history, mythology, and like outline that we're just getting quick glimpses of. My biggest issue with this is he just keeps mentioning things. So I'm like, okay, then let me go see that. Like, tell me that story. There's Martians, there's all these there's the Father Christmas and Grandfather Time, and this needs to come out more frequently if he's going to tell that story.
Yeah, he has a whole supporting cast of Christmas characters that help him fight crime, or have helped him fight crime before. He's got a bat cave. It's awesome.
Yeah.
They can teleport people from anywhere on the globe to it. It's really cool. He keeps asking you to file too much away.
Yeah.
Just file it away.
And I don't know whether this bad Santa's important, because like, he's his polar opposite, and he comes from this place, and I don't know what that is or how he
it's a mirror
actually
universe.
Relates. Is that what it is?
The way it's discussed.
I'm not sure if that's part of the mythology or if that's just for this story.
Yeah. He's basically his Negadoc, like.
Yeah, it's
or like more like, evil Kirk or something.
It's a beautiful book. I enjoyed reading it. I think he has thought this universe out too much for something he's going to put out once a year, and
I think he's going to lose people.
And telling it non-linearly.
I think he's going to lose people.
I think so, too.
We did a GNN earlier, if you're not watching the full Omnibus video, where we talked about what makes good and bad Christmas specials.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's difficult to do only Christmas specials and nothing else, is the thing. If you're only getting it once a year, I feel like it needs to be a really cohesive, good, not too complicated, one-shot story. It is oversized. He has plenty of pages to work with,
mm-hmm.
but he's giving us all these things almost like he's frustrated and irritated that he's not allowed to make it longer. Is Boom just not allowing him to do a longer Klaus story?
I don't think so.
This his idea?
Seems to be his idea.
That's what it seems like, and we liked that idea initially, hoping that we eventually would get an actual honest.
And I like the idea of jumping around the timeline.
Yeah.
The problem is,
and I like them. And
there's so much.
And I like the social commentary here. I don't think it's as on the nose as the one from last year.
Man, I genuinely was emotionally hit by the You have to have imagination to be able to think past how dark it is right now.
Yes.
You have to be able to see the future as something more than what you're thinking it is, and that was really powerful and really, really just really great writing.
And it does have an anti-corporate, business is too much in it has his hands too much in Christmas,
mm-hmm.
But it's fresh about it.
Yeah, no. I don't have a problem with the story.
And Xmas Town is a great idea. Like I love taking that idea and exaggerating it. And you wouldn't think now you could exaggerate that. It's gotten so crazy. But he turns a whole town into a Christmas theme park. That's a really cool idea. And then has like these, and then picks kids off the street and mind controls them. That's great.
So
and also
And at some point, the end game is take over the world.
Yeah, and I like that he's coming up with more creative, fresh stories or villain plots about doing bad things to children. Because that's what Klaus is all about, is helping children.
Yeah. So I like
It's really good. It's just too much to take in one shot. I can't keep this mythology straight once every 12 months.
And most of this stuff wasn't in the previous one. Like, we're hit with all of this, right? Like, we knew he went to the moon, but now we're getting the sense, oh, the moon isn't a thing that he just got back from. He's having an ongoing war with things on the moon. Like, there's a lot that happens on the moon.
Well, and I'm not saying this to do the I told you so thing I got to do last year, but remember we got to the end of the miniseries, and I swore to God he goes to space.
It's all about space.
And you were like, oh, I don't know, I don't think you can get that from that last shot. And then we hear about the moon thing last year, and I'm like, see, he goes to space. I was so excited at the end of Klaus when I thought he was going to space, where I was like, maybe the sequel will be him going to space. I think that's what it'll be. I think if he ever does a full-blown Klaus sequel, we're going to actually get to see all this stuff. But I don't want to hear about it in the interim. I just want him to do more down to earth for this.
And there's also something with Martians. Stories. Because he's doing the Santa Claus Conquers the Martians thing.
Occasional, I didn't even think about it. That is what that is.
But he says the so-called Martians, so I'm wondering if the people that say they're Martians are from the moon, or if they are a separate space race.
Or maybe it'll be a thing where they're not actually from the moon, but they colonized it, and maybe there was somebody that was actually on the moon, and they ruined them, and it's like an Indian metaphor or something.
Yeah, I don't know. Like, I really like this. I enjoy it. It's just, I want these more often.
Yeah.
Or tell it more linearly. Like it's fun to jump around timelines, but also, real quick question about the ending.
Yeah.
Is the girl at the end of this, is she at the beginning of Winter Witch? Is she the one that calls him? Is it her kids that are in danger?
I don't remember. It's been too long since
I've got lent out at the moment, so I can't just like go check.
I have one.
Oh yeah, you do have one.
This I need to buy because you brought that home and I forgot it came out, so I don't have a copy yet. But
yeah, no, I really like the tradition.
I'm never letting him leave. It's so convenient.
I really like the tradition of just like every Christmas there's going to be a Klaus issue. I want to know more about this universe, and I don't get to know more now for another 12 months.
Yeah, it's like, should it be an ongoing? Because you get away with that when it's such a Christmas theme. I mean, they did that with the miniseries, and we complained about it, but that was mostly because it was late.
And because it was a graphic novel in the first place.
And because of when it started, right? Well, that's the thing, is that is a graphic novel, and it reads perfectly together. It reads okay month to month, but that's neither here nor there. It's not a month to month kind of thing. It's chapter. When the big issue we have with it was where it started versus where it finished. Like, you want it to end at Christmas, not started at Christmas. I forget where it started, but
it started in November.
Yeah. That's not where you start a thing like that. You either put it all out at once, and the thing is, I think a lot of people didn't even think to read that until it came out in that beautiful hardcover.
Yep.
Just one of the most gorgeous hardcovers.
Yep.
So the last thing I'll mention is sorry about that. Dan Mora is just an unsung hero, right? Like,
well, and last year we didn't think his art was that great. We were like, it feels like he just didn't have enough time. This is great.
It's great.
This is great.
Yeah, he didn't have enough time last year, but I guess what I'm saying is, just go back to the original Klaus. His art is brilliant. It's masterful. It's gorgeous. It's not the same thing, but it's as Bermejo, but it's Bermejo level. I mean, it's brilliant. I'm just comparing them because they both did Christmas things, I guess. But, but like I was just flabbergasted as I have been by Bermejo looking at his artwork, and Boom's got him doing stuff like Power Rangers, which is awesome, and I love that I get Power Rangers of all things rendered by this guy. But like, come on, he's an unsung hero. Why isn't other people giving him work? Why is he just at Boom?
How would you not immediately go like, hey, you want to come do Thor?
Seriously. No, he would have an epic Thor run.
Yeah.
I hope that happens at some point.
Me too.
And now that you say that, nobody cares about this character anymore, but I want to see him draw Angela, because I bet he would draw an amazing Angela.
Yeah, he could also do Superman. He'd do a wonderful Superman.
Good point, yeah. And well, I mean, like, I can't think of a lot of things that he wouldn't be great for.
Yeah, it's true. Because his Batman would be great, too.
His Batman would be great, too, yeah. Okay, so I want to mention, briefly, Batman Creature of the Night. I was going to review this when it first came out, and I didn't get to it. So I will just mention, this is just the first issue. I don't want to talk too much about this, because I don't know where it's going, and I don't have all of it in front of me. I think The second issue might have come out already or is about to. I'm like a week behind on buying comics. I'm much farther behind on reading them. But finally sat down and read this, and Eric, this made me cry.
Did it?
I got 15 pages
I want to read this. I haven't gotten a chance yet.
I just lost it. So I love Kurt Busiek. Kurt Busiek has done this to me before. He seems to share too many of my sensibilities about children and families and stuff like that. Like, he's incredible at telling a really down-to-earth story in a very heightened world. And this kind of has that Marvels thing to a degree. It's not exactly that. So here's what's interesting. The initial premise of this, the idea of this, is a kid who is in what is ostensibly the real world, who loves Batman, and was raised on Batman comics.
And it's set in the 60s, right?
It's set in the 60s. Batman TV show is on. And when they go trick-or-treating, and he has his Batman trick-or-treat costume on, which is when his parents get murdered on Halloween, it's really freaking super sad. And I'm jumping all over the place, but it's very impressive that you could that you could make this scenario again so tragic and sad. The Batman, the Halloween costume, I forget. I don't think so. The Halloween costume he has on is that crappy '60s show Halloween costume
where it says
Batman. Yeah, it's awesome. Well, he's wearing it right here.
Yeah.
It's great. But I didn't get the sense that that's what it was when I looked at this. I thought it was just makeshift. But then I read the book and I'm like, oh, that's cool. It's that Halloween costume. Anyway, it feels like we're in the real world, but it's really heightened. It's dark and gritty and kind of noirish heightened, but you don't realize it until the supernatural thing happens. And I didn't expect anything supernatural to happen in this book. But basically, and I'm going to spoil a little bit just to be able to talk about this at all and to try to entice people to get it. So initially, the idea, and it started going in a different direction than I thought it would. Initially, the idea is kid who loves Batman, wishes he could be Batman, bites off more than he can chew in a way where it's like where it's like, be careful what you wish for. He doesn't actually verbalize a wish. It's not like, oh God, or the cosmos or the powers that be, I wish I could be Batman. But he finagles everything in his life to be as Batman-like as humanly possible. He has an uncle who whose first name starts with A-L and last name ends or starts with Fred, and he puts that together and makes an Alfred. His name is Bruce Wainwright, and some of that stuff is too convenient or potentially too convenient, and as we go along it might feel more so. I was kind of impressed with the ways in which Busiek makes it a believable coincidence, or what would happen in real life with that, where it's suggested that his name is part of why he's so obsessed with Batman in the first place.
Right.
So that you have a kid who was born Bruce Wainwright, and of course Wayne isn't even spelled that way. Mm-hmm. Bruce Wainwright, and he latches on to Batman, and he becomes a huge Batman fan. I like that a lot better than a Batman fan whose name happens to be Bruce Wainwright. I like that they're connected. That's cool. Mm-hmm. And I have a whole thing with identity and names. I always find that really interesting. So anyway, as it goes along, his actual life starts to look too much like Batman's for comfort, because he loses his parents in front of him, and it's an entirely different scenario than the actual Batman scenario. It's not in an alley. They break into his house. Oh. And his parents are killed at home, which somehow rather makes it worse. Makes it more
that's
tragic.
way worse, because that's your safe space.
I have to think about it. That's what it is. Yeah. And it's horrible. And he's trying to, of course, catch his parents' killers. And what I love is he's not kiddish to the point where, like, you don't buy that he's still into Batman. It's like the only thing he has to latch on to. So you might think, well, because he's had something so like too close to comfort that's like Batman, maybe he wouldn't like Batman anymore. But it stops being I wish I was Batman, and it starts being I wish there was a Batman. I wish Batman had been there to save my family. And if only I lived in a world where he was there, this wouldn't have happened. If Batman had been there, this wouldn't have happened. Batman wouldn't let this happen to me. And that is so incredibly believable, I think. It's really a literary, I should mention that. And
you should read the other one he did with Superman, because I think it's similar. where it's a kid who lives in the real world who likes Superman and then becomes Superman.
As it goes along, things start to look more like Bruce Wayne for him, where he has, and this is the thing that I thought was a little bit of a bridge too far, he has a Commissioner Gordon, or not a commissioner, but there's a cop that's trying to help him find his parents' killer, or wants to, but can't really do much about it, where it's like there are other cases that take precedent, and they don't have enough evidence, and they don't have anything to look at. His first name is Gordon, and I think that's maybe a bridge too far, but whatever. And anyway, as it goes along, mysterious things start to happen where there's a giant bat creature. Just in the world with him. There's this giant bat creature. And by the end of it, it is implying, anyway, that he has somehow willed this into consciousness. Or into reality from his own consciousness. So we'll see where it goes. That was a left turn for me. That's not where I thought this was going. I think it's really interesting, and I trust Busick. I think this is going to totally work and make sense by the end. I mean, not even make sense, just make sense as a choice. You know what I mean? Because at first I thought that was really counterintuitive. But anyway, I don't want to say anything else about it. It's gorgeous. It's really super gritty, but it's very timeless. It's very out of time.
Yeah, well,
it takes place in the '60s, but I mean artistically.
Yeah, I flipped through it. It's a beautiful book.
So we will definitely review this when it's over. The two of us will.
Yeah.
And then I wanted to mention, so we were both going to read these, and we had every intention 2 shows ago to talk about the, I got to switch gears here, the Dark Knight's Metal tie-ins, and this was Eric's idea in the first place, and then Eric didn't actually get around to reading this.
I did not get a chance.
Because later on in the Omnibus, we're going to review and a quick plug for this, again, if you're only watching the Vault, please take the time to go watch this part of the Omnibus, or the read a book when I get it up. The read a script, I should
absolutely,
say.
Absolutely.
We're going to be talking about the first draft of Batman '89, and you're in for a treat with that if you don't know the details of that and you've never read that script. It's going to be very, very interesting. But Eric ended up having to read that instead of this.
And I still want to read these. I just didn't get a chance to read them for the
We'll talk about these a little bit when we do Metal in its entirety.
Okay.
4 finally came out this week, but we have 2 more months until 5, so we're not even going to get to review that whole thing until probably close to summer at this point, if they continue waiting 2 months in between them. So we'll see what happens with all of that. It's going to be weird, because it means that we're going to be already probably halfway through Doomsday Clock. Yeah. So anyway, I will mention these briefly, and mostly all I want to say is, if you expect these to be superfluous, I think you're in for a treat. I think you should give these a try. I think it's really fun that we have 7 evil Batmen, and they get united, and the back of a lot of them has the 6 from Justice League that were not united, even when we had the whole Unite the 7 thing, which we commandeered back when we had a panel of 7 people making videos on the channel. I think that's hilarious. Okay, so all I will do with this is I will go through each of them briefly, and or I would not even give you reviews. I'll just go through and tell you what each of them are and what my favorite is. I
also want to know your least favorite.
Okay, I don't know if I have one, but yeah, okay. I probably do. Okay. I think they're all solid. I think everybody does a great job on this, even guys I usually find kind of hit or miss. I think Williamson's really good with Red Death. I think Tomasi has one of the better ones. Abnett.
Did he do the Aquaman
did the
one?
Aquaman
That's
one,
awesome.
Which is actually, you asked me what my least favorite is. That is probably my least favorite, one? But it's not badly written. I think it's just the biggest stretch is the thing. So here's the idea with these. It's not what if different characters became evil Batman. It's a version of Bruce Wayne that has a motif of one of the members of Justice League and Batman. That's the whole idea. I am a freaking kid in a candy store with this stuff, because I love Elseworlds. I love alternate, crazy, twisted, what if Batman was a complete crazy nutcase psychopath guy, and I got it 7 times with this. It's not formulaic. They don't all read the same. It's not like, oh well, there's this tragedy that makes Batman go this whole other way. We come up. I mean, a lot of it is that, but we come up with really unique, different ways to make these characters the way they are. And I think one-shots for them make sense. I none of these guys did I feel like I need their origins fleshed out to several issues, or that I want to see like a big long story with them. It was kind of nice just to get their backgrounds. That really kind of works. And some of them are just backstory stories, and some of them you get that backstory pretty quickly or kind of non-linear, and then the rest of it is what they're doing in another Earth in our universe, because or multiverse, because we have the multiverse and the dark multiverse. These guys come from the dark multiverse, and the idea is that they were kind of forgotten by reality or whatever, and life is horrible for all of them, which is weird because it's not like every world in the dark universe looks like hell. Like, there are people who seem to have fine, okay lives in the dark multiverse.
There are normal people in the dark multiverse.
Yeah, it is. That's a weird thing about the whole dark multiverse. But anyway,
dark multiverse is like the multiverse, except sometimes people are bad.
We take the
not like the real multiverse.
Yeah,
where there are no bad people.
It seems like mostly the dark multiverse is dark because it sucks to be Batman, and that's what it feels like. But I love the audacity of this. Like I said, we take a lot of these guys and put them in different worlds in our multiverse, and one of my only complaints about these is that it's hard to keep in mind when we're in Earth Zero and it matters, because Earth Zero is our world, and we go to some other ones. We go to, I forget, Earth 2.
When you say our world, you mean
some other
our
ones.
World, yes?
No, I mean the DC, the regular DC.
Oh, I thought they were Earth 1.
No, they're Earth Zero.
Oh, I didn't know that. There's a book called Earth 1.
There's a book called Earth 1.
Yes, there is.
That would be Earth 1.
Yes, there is.
Yep.
But what about those graphic novels called Earth 1?
No, that's what I'm talking about, is the graphic novels.
No, but then there's also, isn't there the Earth
that's
1?
That's Earth 2, I think.
Is that the Earth 2? Okay.
Isn't it? It's been a while, I don't remember anymore. But anyway, so I used to say, the CW shows were Earth 1, and that confuses things.
And we historically have always been Earth 1.
But what I like about the Earth Zero thing is that it's not arbitrary. They say, well, I mean, I think it's supposed to be. I'm almost positive it is. But anyway, I could be wrong with that. I'm almost positive I'm right about that. But I like that we make the distinction now that Earth Zero is the original proto-Earth that everything else comes out of, because it explains why we're following it over anything else. I really like that. I don't like this arbitrary thing we do with the CW shows where we call ours Earth 1 because we're Earth-centric. Yeah. Anyway, so we've got Flash. We've got Evil Flash, where Batman figures out how to steal the Speed Force and use it for his own scary ends. And then we have
speedy ends.
And then we have the Murder Machine, which is one of the more chilling and twisted, where
that's CJ's favorite of them.
Yeah, where Bruce Wayne has lost Alfred and is obsessed with keeping Alfred around, so he has an AI Alfred that goes crazy and takes over, and there are a whole bunch of them, and they take over everything, and they're really scary. And then we have Dawnbreaker, which is one of, if not my favorites, which is really surprising, because I'm not a big Green Lantern guy, but and it's just super creepy and wrong and messed up, where he gets a Green Lantern ring as Bruce Wayne immediately after his parents get killed.
Oh.
Where the ring just shows up in the alley and says,
"You seem worthy, small child.
You have a lot of will, Bruce Wayne, who just got his parents killed, or who just saw his parents get killed." And the Green Lantern Corps with the ring, I guess, is confused about what is exactly in Bruce Wayne's heart, where he had... I guess the idea is supposed to be... Oh, I know what it is. The ring says you're fearless, and the idea isn't that he lost his fear or like naturally or anything. The idea is he had it obliterated when his parents died, and that is the one time in Bruce Wayne's life that if you showed up and gave him unlimited power, he would turn into a crazy psychotic despot, and that's what happens. As like 10 or 12-year-old Bruce Wayne, like, we don't have a time jump right away. He's just evil, scary, like, teenage Bruce Wayne flying around murdering people and telling Gordon what to do, and he murders Gordon. He just blows him up right there on the roof. And then the whole Green Lantern Corps shows up to stop him, and he blows all of them up too, because he's got so much willpower, he takes it way too far and he becomes the most powerful Green Lantern. And you might be a Green Lantern fan and be like, none of this makes any sense, but I adored it. I thought it was horrifying. Here's his oath. He has an oath. With darkness black, I choked the light, and that's the whole thing with this. Is they're all with the Batman who laughs that comes in and recruits them all. Is like we've got to take over the light. The light's bad, and so they go to the light multiverse and they try or the regular multiverse. They try to make the dark.
They call it the light multiverse.
With darkness black, I choked the light. No brightest day escapes my sight. I turn the dawn to midnight. Beware my power, Dawnbreaker's might. It's great.
That's pretty great.
I love the audacity and the ridiculousness of this stuff, but it's horrifying when you're reading it. It's just horrifying. Merciless is great. This is Batman becoming the God of War.
Nice.
And that's how we get the whole Wonder Woman thing. This one's weird. The Drowned is strange because this is a female Batman in a world where all the genders are flipped, which is kind of fun. I don't know why we did it necessarily with this one. I guess we just thought it'd be cool to have a girl in there, so we did a girl.
Yeah.
And that's the only way to do it with this premise, because you can't just have it be
Bruce Wayne.
Has to be Bruce Wayne, right? So it's Bryce Wayne, I think. And anyway, so she, the thing that was weird about this for me was that she ends up like, kind of, using science to make herself more like an Atlantean. And that was kind of weird. She like gives herself gills and stuff.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah. You'll probably like this one a little bit better than I did, but, and then, Devastator is, kind of what you would expect. It's, Batman, gets, well, okay, so he gets the Doomsday strain from that ridiculous Doomed thing in 52, and, turns himself into Doomsday, and for a while he's able to go back and forth between them, but
why would you?
They use it, well, sometimes it's impractical to be Doomsday. I feel like they're, like, if you need to get in an elevator or something, that doesn't happen in this, but,
They cut the elevator scene.
But I love this, but yeah, the idea is he becomes Doomsday so that nobody can hurt him again, and
he's been hurt before.
What, they just straight up do BVS?
Oh, really?
He's got the Kryptonite
spear,
man! And, instead of fighting Doomsday, he's Doomsday.
And they kill Superman.
It's pretty great.
Oh, yeah. That's amazing.
Yeah, I like it. I like it a lot. And then Batman Who Laughs is brilliant. It's just brilliant.
Who wrote that one?
This Tinian.
Wow.
This Tinian is really good.
Wow.
Yeah. So I think it's brilliant. Maybe I'm overstating. I think it's really good. And it's a Batman who gets I'm talking longer about these than I thought I would, but I really enjoyed these. It's a Batman who gets his personality all messed up and he's not himself, but that's the only way I can buy Batman becoming the Joker. And the way it works is pretty cool because it's a Joker who figures out how to turn Batman into the Joker after he dies.
Oh.
And that's kind of how that happens.
Okay, so I have one question about all 7 of these.
Yeah, sure.
Do they shed any light on... Oh, man, it's the guy that did Batman Shadow, isn't it?
Yeah, it's gorgeous.
Oh, that's awesome.
And he's perfect for this. Yeah, look at that.
That's fantastic.
And he loves dual firearms. Yeah? It's like, can I draw the Shadow so I can have dual firearms?
Does any of this shed any light on the big giant scary Batman guy in Metal?
Yes, because that's Barbados, right?
Yes, Barbados.
That's who he's working for.
Yes.
He keeps mentioning him, but we don't know anything about him yet.
Okay.
There's another tie-in one-shot called Batman Lost, which I've not read yet. I have it, but I wanted to review these without looking at it because these are kind of separate.
Yeah, it's kind of their own thing.
Yeah, I just didn't think it would make sense to talk about it here because there's a Lost. I think they're going to do a Found and those like. Oh, that's right. So those I'm sure are going to be companion pieces.
Okay, because Barbados. I can't tell reading Metal whether Barbados is a mystery or not. Whether we're supposed to. I'm waiting for the reveal of like what or who Barbados is, and I don't know if he's hinted.
Me too. Because I haven't read the actual Metal issues in a while. I forgot he was a Batman.
Yeah, he's a big, scary, like death-looking Batman.
Yeah,
he's often doing this pose, which is why I keep doing this. He's in the background going like this.
He has this toxin that he uses to bring people over to his scary, crazy, creepy Joker side, and these are his Robins. Like, he just takes his Robins and turns them into his scary, crazy henchmen, and yeah,
nice.
Anyway, so, I do definitely recommend those. I think you could read Metal without them, but I think Metal is such a fun, interesting, crazy, messed up world that's as audacious, we've been talking about this, as a lot of these interdimensional things keep acting like they are. Where, like, it really is as wild and surprising and engaging and not what you would expect as a lot of these things pretend like they are, and I think that's very exciting. And so,
yeah, I can tell you, as someone that is done with the multiverse idea right now, because it's so overdone, I'm loving Metal.
That Metal, it's one of the most fresh things we've read in a long time.
Yeah, it's the first comic book event that's really felt fresh and like worth being an event in a while.
And impressive that it's so Batman centric and it gets away with that.
And it doesn't feel obnoxious about it. It almost feels like it's a joke. It's like,
I think some of that is because of how many other obscure characters you've never heard of or haven't seen in a million years show up in Metal, right?
Yeah.
And you have a little bit of that in this. Dr. Fate shows up and
oh, cool. But yeah, like I think it's almost kind of poking fun. Like oh, you think everything's about Batman? Let's make something that's all about Batman.
So anyway, that's going to be it for us for the Comic Vault. Thanks a whole bunch for watching, whether you're watching the Omnibus or just this as its separate own video. And if there's something you would like us to review, we are now taking singular, outside of Patreon, $20 donations to read and review anything within reason, and make sure that you send us a message first about it to make sure that it's something that we're willing and comfortable and can to do and can get our hands on. But pretty much anything, pretty much anything goes, as long as we can get our hands on it. But we're willing to do that with a $20 donation if there's something that you really want us to review, and if there's something that you are working on that you have that's out already and that is for public consumption, we will happily consider it if you want to send us a PDF or send us a physical copy, and just send me a message either on Geekvolution on Facebook or in the email in the Omnibus description, and we will take a look at your stuff. Thanks a lot for watching the Comic Vault, and now we're going to move on to more Omnibus.